Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RENNSPORT Community League Season 2, to the final race of this very epic season. And today we are here in Monza, the tempo of speed, as we see one of the Mercedes going a bit too speedy into the chicane. But we are right now in qualifying, and I'm joined by the beautiful voice of Tim Ireland.
Beautiful voice. I never expected that, but thank you.
And we see a bit of chaos unfold right now while people try to get used to Monza. Of course, a fairly tricky track in and of itself. You have a good amount of Porsches today on the grid as well.
It's always good to see more Porsches.
Would you say you are biased?
No, I just think I don't drive Porsches in game that much because I'm terrible and can't do that. But I think it's always good to have a variety of drive methods. I think it mixes things up a little bit. And with it being the only rear-engine car, then it's got to be a Porsche.
Isn't it basically the only rear-engine car from any big manufacturer on the market?
Yeah, everyone else has realized it was a bad idea.
Well, technically, it really can't be a bad idea if Porsche, in every way you look at it, is this successful in different ways of racing the car.
I still think they're successful despite having rear-engine cars rather than because of it.
Well, we'll have enough time today to discuss that. But meanwhile, we also got a championship today. And this championship is looking very good for this man, Dominik Ladler. He is leading the championship at the moment. If we take a look at the standings, you can see that the gap is fairly big. And a lot of stuff has to happen for him to lose this championship to Joachim Thunder. Lucas Bender actually still sitting in third. He's, of course, right now coaching or working with the EWC in Riyadh, which is taking place simultaneously to this. But Ali Zahir in fourth could well jump up to third in the championship. This is your... how would you call it? Pro... what does the weatherman say? The pro... English lessons with Lino and Tim on
You've lost me there.
Prognosis?
Okay, yeah, that works.
For today? I think there's forecast. That's what I want.
Yeah, forecast would probably be better.
Maybe we should put a native English speaker into the booth and not a German pleb, but that's just an idea. However, it could be fairly interesting in terms of the standings with the drivers we have here today.
Yeah, we've got a few of the top. Obviously, Lucas isn't here because of doing his EWC business, but yeah, we've got Ladler, we've got Thunder, we've got Zahir. There's no Loretto, unfortunately, or no. But you can definitely mix up the top three today. And if you hadn't had enough Monza action from EWC already, then you can always see some normal human people racing it.
Indeed, and we are waiting for the first lap times to come in. Alizai without a valid lap. So let's see who will be the first one to actually set a valid lap.
It's Dominik Ladler by the look of it.
Indeed, a 149.1. I've got 11 cars on the grid, not the most, not the least, so can expect some good racing. And as you said, we have quality drivers here to fight it out for sure. Ali Zahir had some stellar performances on this track, especially in the AMG. So I'm expecting some good race action from him. He's already 4/10 up on Dominik Ladler in the first sector. And you also
I think
go
virtually everyone in sim racing understands how to drive at Monza. I think everybody knows it in one form or another. So it comes to tiny little differences, really. Like the pushing yourself is the difference between braking at one marker, at a certain brake marker, or braking 2 meters afterwards, which at 160 kilometers an hour is not a big difference.
And we also see this man back, Julian Chicot. We have seen him in a couple of races, and he is very fast. He is as well as Joachim Thunder, Ladler, and who we also see back, Max Toth. One of my personal picks for this race, but I just named half the grid to win this race, so I don't know if that's a real pick here.
Hedging your bets there, Lino.
But I mean, with what we've seen from him, I think he had a very good run at Orchard Road as well. It wouldn't be a surprise, would it?
No, he seems to be doing very well. Ali Zahir has just come in a second quicker than Dominic Ladler. I mean, people are pushing it, so they're getting a lot of invalid laps at the minute, I think.
Ali Zahir also with a good slipstream here from the Porsche in front. Looks like the 7 car of... how to pronounce that name?
Yeah.
Actually, active bump drafting there, going into the first less mode.
I think that was a get out of my way bump draft. Joachim Thunder putting in a good time and coming in second. Just put Ladler down to third now. Wow, that is a Porsche stacked field. It's almost a Porsche Cup race.
Well, but on top, it's the Mercedes star and the Audi rings at the moment.
Yeah. This man needs to get a bit further up so we can have our regular 4-car grid.
A regular BOP talk during the end of the qualifying session. Gotta keep those traditions alive, so let's see what Julian Chicot can do in the second sector. Your first one is 4/10 down, or up, down on Ali Zahir. Second one, he's 6th, and that's actually still a very good lap time to get into the top 4.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad lap time. Ali Zahir seems to be crushing it today.
Well, not only today, to be honest, but...
No, but especially today.
I mean, if you think back 1 week where he was in a BMW, Julian Chicot didn't improve, so he must have invalidated on the final sector, unfortunately, but he still has some time left in this session. Meanwhile, Joachim Thunder is the first one to have parked, and Dominic Ladler improved to 2nd.
Yeah, he's only just over a 10th off, so he's pretty happy with that, I think. He seems to have parked up as well. In case we do have any viewers coming across from EWC, you might be a little bit interested to know that we do have a different VOP in the public servers than they do at EWC. So if you kind of try to transfer some knowledge directly from watching the pros, then some of it might not be applicable.
See if this lap time from Ali Zahir will be another improvement. And indeed it is, and he goes into the 47s. I'm not sure, have you followed EWC today?
I have been watching. I haven't watched all of it today, but I've watched bits of it here and there. I have been doing some family duties, but I think, were they doing, I think, was it 45s or 44s around Monza?
So they are a tad quicker.
It is ridiculous. But yeah, they are using not only just a different BOP, but a different build of the game as well. So again, maybe don't draw like direct parallels. Although I'm quite I'm pretty sure that Ali Zahir would be happy if we drew a parallel between him and some esports professionals.
I mean, some of them have encountered esport professionals. They have been with us for some of the community races. If you think back to the Spa 2.4 hours, you can also hear the engines come back to life. So we'll go back to live footage. And yeah, it's Ali Zahir leading in front of the very well noticeable Dominik Ladler. Now one of the Porsches is a bit out of place there.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's not what we wanted to see. We've seen this before, but Ali Zahir in front. Followed by Joachim Thunder.
Got a huge gap now because of the hijinks on the first straight.
And this one is also a night race. We really pulled out the trick in the head here today for this race.
You just wanted to show off the Founder's livery again, didn't you?
Indeed, I mean, it looks beautiful at night.
It does.
But yeah, Dominik Ladler not really having a good start here for this race. But we've seen him making up some big gaps before. Same goes for Joachim Thunder, who just goes a bit wider through the second chicane. Meanwhile, it looks close between Mishuk and Toth for the final spot on the podium, but of course we are only 1 minute into a 45-minute race.
Yeah, we've got a while to go yet, so there's plenty of things that can happen before that. But yeah, Ladler's got a lot of ground to make up, but he's definitely got the pace to pick up a few places for sure.
But this man up front, Ali Zahir, will be hard to catch up to. And we've got some questions in the chat, and the race will be 45 minutes in length. So 45 minutes, and then once the leader, which in this case would be Ali Zahir, crosses the line, the race is over. We also will have to complete one pit stop due to the fuel in those cars not lasting for the whole duration on the standard setup. So the real interesting part will come later, but here's Marcus Toth sending it down the inside of Milos Mishuk and actually getting passed into third position. So swap between the two Porsches. And in this live stream, you're watching the Community League right now. There will be one race throughout the stream, but there's more racing action on the EWC or on the ESL R1 channel, and Mishuk is having a look down the inside. So if you want to see more action after this race, or maybe simultaneous, you can of course open two browsers or watch on your phone. You can tune into the EWC live stream to watch the esports division have their shot at glory.
Of course, they have to do a far less manly, like 10 laps in Monza.
Yeah, roughly 1/3 of the race distance here.
But admittedly, if they had to do 45 minutes, the amount of races they're doing, it would be a long old stream.
It wouldn't be really fitting with the format as well. But of course, if you want to collect some cool stuff for RENNSPORT, like a special livery, an M4 GT4 that's added to your owned cars and all that stuff, you can check out the live stream over at ESL R1 and I think also on this channel to get some drops and connect your RENNSPORT account to your Twitch account, because there are some very cool new things together there. So if you have, I think, 30 minutes of watch time, you will get a cool dynamic livery for your owned car. Meanwhile, Dominik Ladler is moving up into 5th position in front of Julian Chico, who is giving us the Tim Schroeder flash.
Yeah, 30 minutes is a profile badge, which is one like same as the badges in game you get for doing things. 2 hours is a livery, 4 hours for the car, and 6 hours you get all the GT3 liveries. So, well, all the EWC GT3 liveries.
So if you, for example, own the Porsche at the moment, have bought the Founders Pack and have the beautiful Founders livery on that Porsche, as Dominic Lala is here, is now hunting down Mishuk. But you decide later on to buy an Audi, for instance, you will also get the EWC livery for the Audi as well, not only the Porsche.
Yep.
Where will Lala go for it though?
I don't think he's getting quite enough. Oh, he's maybe going to go for it into a Ascari.
It's not the typical place to go for it, but he really did make that one work.
Yeah.
And already up into 4th.
He's not got too long to get before he's catching up with Marcus Toth. Although Marcus has been going pretty quick, so it might take him a few laps to close the gap. Gap between Thunder and Ali Zahir has been staying pretty much the same. They're virtually doing the same lap time right now.
Meanwhile, Julian Chico is also trying to get past Mishuk for 5th place. He dropped down a bit from the start. I think so.
The spirit of Tim Troider lives on.
Very fittingly also on a BMW. I mean, Tim Schroeder's really started with the... Oh, and down the inside he goes. Can he make it work? Mishuk with the better run on the outside. Dips his tires into the gravel and stays in front.
Defensive line there. The Seacott flashes his lights. This is generally a bad corner to try to overtake on. Maybe thinks better of it. Seacott taking the more defensive line as he comes into Ascari.
Ah, they touch side by side. Oh, and Mishuk
Little.
being very...
I think he hit a bit much curb there and couldn't slow down quite as much as he wanted to.
Well, let's say it was also a bit overly ambitious, but now Dominic Lala trying to get Marcus Toth for 3rd place, and we know from Dominic Lala that he usually isn't over-ambitious.
No, he's usually a bit more wary about his overtakes.
Can also see the gap to Zaya and Thunder up front is fairly big. Side by side into turn 1 we go, and beautiful defendants there also by Marcus Toth, pinning Dominic Lala to the inside, but Dominic Lala just too quick through the inside there.
Dazzled by that Founders livery.
Well, who wouldn't be?
So Rattler's got a lot of work to do if he wants to get any further ahead, and the top 3 right now doing... Oh,
both missing the corner for the same reason.
Getting a bit too racy there.
Can do that once or twice, but if you do it too often you will get incident points. And with those incident points come penalties at a certain point. So.
Yeah. But I was going to say that the top 3 are doing pretty much the same lap times. So closing the gap down from Latler to Thunder is going to be a difficult job to take. He's going to require a lot of consistent lap times, I think. Ali Zahir just pulling away from Joachim Thunder a little bit.
And there's the Tim Schroeder flash once more, this time from Mishuk against Chico.
Yeah, Mishuk's been pretty liberal with that flash recently, so I wonder if he's blue tacked the button down.
I mean, it must have worked because Chico just completely ran right in Parabolica, now giving the Tim Schroeder flash back to Mishuk. But side by side into turn 1 we go.
Sekot wisely backing out of that.
I wonder how many button presses does the flasher button last on those cars. I mean, if you buy an electrical component, you usually have a certain... Oh, and Chico round... I think there was contact with Mishuk, but I don't think it was caused by the Porsche in this case. Because Chico just braked way too late and slightly on the grass.
Yeah, it was a tricky one to call because the tree was in the way. Terrible steward's excuse. But it looked like Sekot was going for a very late move down the inside. Mishuk was trying to squeeze him over to the left, and there was a little bit of contact at the back of Sekot.
Well, let's take a look back at the front. Thunder is slowly losing a bit of time to Aliza, and I think with the experience that the top 3 have, I don't see any one of them really doing a pit stop blunder here.
No, they've all got pretty good at pit stops now. I can't imagine one of them doing anything terribly wrong.
I mean, they probably also know the number of liters they need to refuel by heart at this stage.
Yeah. But you never know. Accidents happen in situations. And I think accidents tend to happen in one of two situations, either because you're under pressure or you aren't under pressure enough and your mind wanders and then things go wrong. So there's a fairly decent gap between the first 3 places. So keeping that concentration level up for the 45-minute race is perhaps going to be their biggest challenge here.
Very well, very well. If you basically have no target to hunt down and are just on standby driving your laps, it might also happen that you just don't pit when you don't have any fuel left in the car and you just go for another lap. You have to tiptoe around the track and just barely make it into the pits once again. Not looking at anyone specific from the moderator team at this stage, but I might have seen it somewhere.
Fairly sure that's never happened to any of the mods ever.
I mean, it would be a shame if it happened to a mod. I mean, they should have known better. If you want to see some good racing, you should rewatch Hockenheim Race 2 in Season 1 with a certain Remco Major in it.
I don't know if there are any buses in RENNSPORT right now, but I think you've just pushed him under that one repeatedly.
I mean, it's not like he does anything else with me, so...
But we had a couple of similar things happening in the Founders League recently at Nürburgring, which is a bit more understandable. It's a big circuit. But we have had a couple of fuel mishaps happen there.
I mean, we also had some very fairy tale story type of beat happening at the same stage.
Oh, yeah.
So, that one was really special. Meanwhile, Marcus Toth seems like he has DNF from this race.
Yep.
Should we talk about the beauty of the Faunus livery once more? I mean, it just looks very good.
It does look very good. It's a very pretty livery, and as we've said many times before, but we'll carry on saying it. It looks fantastic at night. I know I, for one, am very much looking forward to a point where we get illuminated number boards in night racing. But until we have them, we have the Founders livery.
I'm curious to see how the EWC livery will stack up against it. I mean, we have a very strong baseline with the Diamond livery, even though I personally prefer the Platinum one. It's more to my color scheme, let's say, but
I think I prefer the Diamond one as well, I've got to admit. Sorry, Dominic.
And there's a good question about the next Founders League race, which of course will be next week on Friday. Touring cars, yes, but it won't be a night race. We've had the night race with the GT4s running from 0 o'clock in-game to 10-ish, to 10-ish a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
So the touring cars will start from 12 a.m. Is it 12 a.m.? It should be 12 a.m. to
midday.
To 6 p.m. Because we will have a 1 hour race with a 6 times multiplier. And of course, it will be interesting to see who's joining. And if we already have some in the chat interested for next week, this is a very good sign. But what we will also have next week, we can maybe also tease a bit, or well, it's already been announced, but talk about a bit. Praga at Hockenheim on Saturday in the RENNSPORT community event. There is still, yeah, and there is still an update scheduled, so that will be very interesting with an updated Praga.
I don't know if you've had much chance to mess around with the updated Praga and do any testing on it yet, Lino, but I've been very much a fan. I do like Pragas. I'm still not a fan of it only having one livery in game, but I'm a fan of driving the car.
That's a very good point.
It's good. It'll make our job as commentators a bit trickier, but it is a very fun car to drive. I do very much like it. It's got a lot of downforce. It's not quite as quick as GT3 in a straight line, but its cornering speed is immense, and it takes a lot of getting used to. I believe it's also got a fixed rear differential, which makes cornering interesting at times.
I mean, the overall lap time on most tracks is very similar to GT3, so you will hardly find GT3 and Praga multi-class racing because the cars will just be in each other's way. Of course, the Brits had to do it and actually have a series where these two cars race together, but they gained the time from very different chunks of the track. As you said, the Praga more downforce and less speed. The GT3 is being more speedy and not being gear limited also helps in terms of top speed, but that's pretty much the big difference between them. Dominic Ladler ever so slightly catching up to the two cars in front, I think. to talk about when Jetta is coming. Well, when we don't know, we just know that it will come, of course. I mean, it's already scheduled into quite some stuff, so.
Yeah, I don't know how much we can say about Jeddah. Besides the fact that it exists, you've all seen it on the EWC casts. It's a lot of fun. It's more fun in a GT3 than you'd think it would be, it being an F1 track. Again, it's a lot of fun in the Praga, but I'm a bit biased there. But I think it's the most fun in a hypercar, which for me is a shocking revelation.
Wouldn't you say you're typically not the hypercar driver?
I am not. I will freely admit I cannot drive a hypercar to save my life. I'm terrible at it, even to the point where I sometimes use the ABS assist. It's better than flat spotting your tires.
I mean, it is a very, very different track to what we have in the game. In terms of street tracks, we have Orchard Road, which has its high-speed sections, but it's very slow corners, typically 90 degrees. But that's your, let's say, more normal, more typical street track comparable to the likes of Singapore or, well, coincidentally, it's also in Singapore, but you know, the F1 track.
Yep.
Or the likes of Norriswing, which I personally really love.
Yeah, I think Jeddah is a bit like if Orchard Road and Fuji had a baby.
Yeah.
I think the flowing sections of Fuji, but the walls. They got the walls.
Oh, big off there for Lala in a way. Managed to catch it, but surely a wake-up moment now that we are 20 minutes into the race.
Yeah, he's been putting in some really fast laps recently. He does have the fastest lap. Yeah, he does have. No, he doesn't. Ali Zahir has the fastest lap of the race by 2/10. But Ladler's been throwing in a lot of laps recently that have been pretty quick. So
But
maybe
Lala
just pushing
and
a
Thunder,
bit too hard.
Lala and Thunder both in the pits. One comes
Quick
to stop.
Thunder.
Seems like it wasn't so quick for Lala. He needed to adjust quite a bit. The Platinum Livy also glows. It doesn't have the dynamic part as much of it. It's still dynamic, so the glimmery effect you still have in that. But what is different on the Diamond Livery is this technology effect, if you speed up, if you get what I mean. The one at the back. This one the Platinum Livery doesn't have, but that doesn't mean it looks any less cool or any less interesting. As said previously, I personally prefer it because I prefer the color palette of that more.
Yeah, you could see it really well there when it came out of the first chicane as they accelerate, and then the pattern kind of stretches down the car.
Well, right now in the pits, with the question being whether there will be markers in the pits. I think Alizai indeed goes into the pits right now. What you have at the moment is a red box. So if you are the driver, so in this case Alizai, we'll see a red box right there where he needs to stop. And it is planned for the future to have better and more indicators of your pit stops. So you have a better idea of when and where to stop.
Yeah, the pit stops will be getting an upgrade in a future update, which is, I think, is going to be a bit more of a graphical update than anything. Which I'm not saying any more about that, but they will be changing, and it'll be easier to see where your pit box is. But right now, for the players, it makes a lot more sense than on our replay view. We obviously don't see all the kind of HUD indication stuff that the players get.
Meanwhile, Alizaya gained big time here through the pit stops. 9 seconds in front of Joachim Thunder, 17 seconds in front of Dominik Ladler. What kind of black magic has Alizaya used for his pit stop?
Zaya did a fantastic pit stop. He had hardly any added time. He had a little bit, but it was like tenths of a second. It was nothing really. Added fuel load wise, it doesn't seem he's taken any less than anyone else. And maybe the steward should be inspecting his fueling equipment at the end of the race. Maybe he's going over the allotted liters per second.
We could talk about a lot of motorsport stories from real life, but I don't think they would translate to RENNSPORT in this case, because to manipulate refueling times, you should be really deep in the code, and once you do that, you're pretty much guaranteed to be detected at a certain stage. So, very unlikely that this is the case.
Yeah, there's no way to change that. I'm merely joking. But it was a very quick pit stop. I can't argue with that. He's got back out on track. His pit lap was 4 seconds quicker than Joachim Thunder's pit lap. So maybe he just braked later coming into the pit speed limit. Joachim Thunder taking a little bit of time to get back up to speed. His last lap was a little bit off the pace he's been running recently, but it was still a respectable lap for sure. Dominik Ladler gaining a tiny bit on him because he just did a bit of a faster outlap.
I mean, we still have 20 minutes left to go. The gaps are fairly big. I'm still wondering, Julian Shikori was stationary for quite some time for some reason that I didn't really get behind. So I'm not sure if he has to do another pit stop or if he had already done that.
Looking at his fuel, I think he has pitted, so I wonder if he maybe a bit of lack of RENNSPORT knowledge and he'd left the tyre change on. Because his pit stop was very long compared to everyone else's, but it seems kind of in the ballpark of the amount of time it takes to change tyres. So I wonder if he had a tyre change as well.
Could well be the case, but he's in a good 4th position at the moment.
Yeah, and his lap times are pretty good. He's improving all the time. Obviously, getting a bit more used to the track and driving it at night, which is always a bit different. Alizar here pulling away from Joachim Thunder, getting the gap on to just about 10 seconds now.
Meanwhile, by the way, while we explained the the pit stop signs and visual stuff. There was a certain someone in the chat who we talked about before, who could it well be, with a moderator badge to his name. I wonder if he listened in before, if he just joined.
Do you think he heard his name mentioned? It wended its way to him through the ether.
But if you didn't know what we are talking about, Remco, we love you. If you do know what we are talking about, we still love you. Thank you for being part of this team. But we will come back to this story time and time again, especially here in the RENNSPORT Community League.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there's a reason why League and League are this close together in terms of how you pronounce them.
From his last lap was a bit of a slow one by his standards anyway. I wonder if he had a bit of a mistake going on. So the gap to Dominic Ladler is near as damn it 6 seconds now. I'm sure with 14 minutes to go, I don't think Ladler is going to be getting overly excited about catching him just yet, but it proves that there's a chink in front of his armour, and Ladler might be able to close that up if the pressure starts to get to him.
I mean, it would still be the fight between the two leading cars in the championship.
Yeah.
Here we have the standings on screen for you. Let's take another look. We've talked about them earlier in the stream, but of course not everybody was on board with us at the start of the stream. So just to give you a rundown, our current leader, Ali Zaya, is currently sitting in 4th. He will probably move up to 3rd in the championship. But P2 and P3 in this race, Joachim Thunder and Dominic Ladler, are the two interesting drivers for the championship, because they're currently sitting 1 and 2. Dominic Ladler looking very good to take the championship. Oh, and as I said that, he has a big drift out of the Parabolica. And I'm also thinking that Chico, while not in the top 16, just trying to have a quick look at the standings, but he could move up into the top 16 if I'm not mistaken.
And I think if Ali Zahir stays at the front like he is right now for the next 12 minutes, then he may be taking the 3rd place spot from Lucas.
Will be close for Chico. It really depends on how many points this race will yield for the drivers. Of course, depending on the attendance of the race. Each race does give a different amount of points. The more drivers, the more points you will get.
Yeah, there's a lot of maths behind the amount of points you get for a race, so I'm not going to even begin to try and explain it or understand it. But it takes the strength of the ratings of the people involved in the race into account with how many points you get.
I mean, you could say it is very or too complicated to understand and stuff, but on the other hand, so far in the RENNSPORT Community League, we've always had a deserving champion and very representative standings in the end of it.
Oh, for sure. I think the system seems to be working. At least for single split racing, it works pretty well. So yeah, I don't think anyone would argue with Dominic Ladler being a pretty deserving guy to win it here tonight. Well, overall.
If we take a look at the standings of the first season, how they concluded, Dominic Ladler on 800 points, or 799 to be exact. with Tim Schroeder, who's been joining the season later. He hasn't attended, I think, the first 2 races on 553. So he was very successful in the 4 races he entered, but the 2 he didn't enter, he of course didn't gain any points. And still, comparatively, we are only speaking of 250 points in terms of the gap, and can calculate with a win at about 150 points. That is not too shabby. Remco Major also on 474 points. He did 1 race even less. And then we had the consistent finishers of Timothy Fritsch, Joachim Thunder, Gokpola, San Joao Loreto behind. Nico Nöninghoff on 169 points with a victory, but only 1 race entered. So you have to be very consistent, and consistency is really rewarded with this point system. Meanwhile, Joachim Thunder seems to have found his consistency back and is slightly gaining on Alizaya.
Yeah, he's closed a little bit on Zahir and made a bit of a gap from Ladler, so I wonder if... So yeah, Joachim Thunder's been putting in a bunch of quick laps recently, so that's maybe where he shifted a bit more forward. He's decided to put a bit more of a buffer between him and Ladler just in case. But coming back to what you were saying then, yeah, consistency is very important in these leagues. People don't have time to participate with them week in, week out. So if you can turn up to every round and finish, then you have a pretty good chance of getting a good result at the end of it.
I mean, it's also a bit embedded into motorsport at this stage. If you think back 30, 40 years, when you still usually had 1 or even 2 drop results due to the cars not being able to cope with that many races. And if you think about what we have now, that we can fairly run a system that can basically take into account the whole season.
Yeah.
That's also quite a way. And of course, now we do it digitally as well, so everybody can pretty much fulfill their dreams. We've had quite a journey behind us, that's what I'm trying to say here. And if you want to be part of this journey, make sure to check out RENNSPORT in the open beta phase, because it's free to enter. Of course, you can support us by buying the Founders Pack, and you get some cool perks like the Nordschleife and this beautiful livery on Dominic Lalaska. I think people who are not the biggest fan of this livery really can't hear it anymore, but I don't care, I really like this livery. But yeah, it's a great support to us, maybe a lot more than you might think. And of course, your name will also be embedded on the Founders track, which will be in the game at later points during development. And so far, it looks to be a very interesting project. I mean, of course, we did some testing internally on the Founders track.
And yeah, we did some testing, and there were a few comments, and those have gone back, and I've driven one of the latest iterations of it, and it's looking really nice. I'm really enjoying it.
It's definitely something that is very different to what you usually expect from a racetrack, but it has a very, very nice flow to it. It's pretty much for what it is, especially a track made for racing.
Yeah.
Of course, if you want to have a bit of a look at it, it's featured in some of the trailers we have on the official RENNSPORT channel. So if you watch for the open beta announcement, it should be, and the Founders Pack trailer, that is where you can take some look at how it will look likely.
It's the one with the palm trees. It's the only one with palm trees, I think.
Not quite. Daytona has palm trees.
Yeah, in the middle.
I mean, it doesn't have a shore, but it has palm trees. And it has a lake. Daytona, I don't know. I knew the reason for it once, but I forgot it. Why Daytona has this big lake just in the middle of the track.
I think it's for absorbing vibration, but I'm not sure.
You know, I actually Google it real quick.
In my day job, I have done some work for motorways, and we do occasionally build acoustic lakes alongside motorways because they absorb ground vibrations. There you are. Random facts.
There's a whole list of crashes with death as a consequence on this track.
Or the lake?
No, for Daytona as a track.
All right.
The lake is fully stocked with fish. That's a very interesting fact. And you can actually go fishing there, as far as I see it. Okay, the reason is actually fairly simple. So, you know those big bankings they have on the turns?
Yes.
31 degrees for everybody who didn't know. Well, they had to get the material from somewhere, you know, to build up those big bankings. And what they then just did simply...
Just make a lake out of the hole.
Indeed, they just dug it up from the middle of the track, built the bankings, filled the hole that was there with water and called it a lake. And you know what? They pretty much did the same thing here in my hometown in Germany. Because they had an old factory site which they removed and they built up, or they dug a lake and built up a hill around it on which they put houses, and then they filled the lake with water.
Yeah.
And now it's one of the most expensive regions to live at in this town.
But yeah, it is the Daytona NASCAR this weekend as well, so I'm carrying on the Daytona links.
Indeed.
But considering the amount of camping there is in the middle of Daytona, the oval anyway, and all the drunken NASCAR fans, I wonder how many fish are left by the end of that weekend.
I mean, I'm sure they have their policies against overfishing. Meanwhile, Alizaya lapping Milos Mishuk. Who has overtaken Julian Chico once more, hasn't he? Who's now Timothy Schroeder flashing Joachim Thunder.
Joachim Thunder, yeah. I'm not entirely sure what that's about.
Just waving him well, hello and goodbye, I guess.
Yeah, I did see that Seiko went off track at the last corner as Joachim Thunder went past him, so I wonder if he feels he maybe got a bit squeezed by one of the leaders, but I'm sure, given the gaps involved at the minute, it would have been okay for him to slow down and just let the leaders through.
You know, 3 days ago, we crowned a champion.
Yes.
In the Runners-Up Cup. And today we will crown another one who's been taking part in both championships.
That's true.
It's pretty good going this week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a good week for a certain person.
I mean, of course, yesterday there was also another drivers champion. In the ESL races. Now we have the teams championship, so lots of stuff to win this week.
Yeah. Although the person from yesterday definitely hasn't been taking part in the Founders League or RCL.
I mean, there's nothing saying they can't.
No, I'm sure we would welcome them. I did run a couple of league events very early on in RENNSPORTs life, and Moritz Löhr turned up to a few of them, which was always nice to see.
I mean, he also swept in for the Spa 2.4. Maybe we'll see him soon again. I'm full of hope for that.
We're getting a lot quicker people turning up to races. We've got a few people pushing certainly kind of Nico Nunninghoff pace turning up, and I think if it just takes a bit of the right conditions for everyone to be in the same race at the same time, I think, and then they'll all have a lot more fun, if you see what I mean.
I mean, I do know what you mean, but talking about in the correct place, in the correct time, Ali Zahir does cross the line in first to take victory here in the RENNSPORT Community League in the final race of Season 2. Joachim Thunder will come home in second, closes the gap a bit to this man, Dominik Ladler. But Dominik Ladler is our Season 2 champion, a two-time champion in the RENNSPORT Community League. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, it was a deserved championship for him. He's been very consistent throughout the season, as we said earlier, and he definitely was a deserved champion.
I'm sure we'll also see him back for the next time. So if you think, okay, next time I can beat Dominik Ladler, then as said previously, just download the RENNSPORT beta. The open beta is free, and all the RENNSPORT Community League races are also available with the free content. So
make sure you join us on our Discord as well, so you get more information about when the races are running.
That is correct. Also, make sure to follow our Instagram and Twitter channels, because there are always updates on there as well on the community events taking place per week. They are also called out on the Discord, but they have a nice overview of what's to come in this week. But yeah, the next season is already planned. It will start in 2 weeks at a new venue to the open beta. But I think more we can tell you in a visual form. But before we do that, Tim, do you have any final words to say for today for this race?
No, just the season overall, it's been a good season. And again, congratulations to Dominik Ladler for the well-deserved win.
I can only add to that. And I mean, next season starts off with a new track. I think it's fairly obvious which one this will be at this point.
What could it be?
What could it be? But I'd say enjoy the trailer. And until then, have a great time and bye-bye.
Goodbye.